The city of Zithera shone like a jewel under the light of its twin suns. Towering crystalline spires stretched into the sky, reflecting golden rays in every direction. Streets were filled with aliens of all shapes and sizes, some with 6 limbs, some covered in shimmering scales, others with glowing eyes that shifted colors depending on their mood. This was a world of power, beauty, and danger. At the heart of the city lay the royal palace, a massive structure carved from translucent crystal that seemed alive under the sunlight. It was here that Queen Seralia, ruler of Zithera, held court. She was known across the galaxy for her intelligence, sharp mind, and unyielding authority. Her advisors often whispered that no alien dared to challenge her, yet now she faced a dilemma unlike any other. "Your Majesty," said her chief advisor, a tall, 3-eyed alien named Krith, "we have received the latest report from the border patrols. A human has been captured alive. The Council recommends you consider him for the Alliance Marriage Initiative." Seralia's eyes narrowed. Humans. They were considered weak by most alien standards, small, fragile, and insignificant, compared to the Zitherans. Yet something about this human intrigued her. "Bring him here," she commanded calmly. Her voice carried authority, echoing off the crystalline walls. "I want to see what makes him different." The human arrived under heavy guard. His name was Adrian Kane, a commander from Earth's space fleet. Unlike the usual trembling captives, Adrian walked straight into the palace, his posture relaxed and confident. His dark eyes scanned the room without fear, and his presence immediately drew attention. Alien nobles murmured among themselves. "How dare she allow a human into the palace?" whispered one. "He will never survive the customs," another said. Adrian ignored them. He bowed politely to the queen, his movements precise, respectful, but also calm, almost casual. Seralia studied him carefully. "You are human," she said. "Tell me, why should I consider you for an alliance marriage? Surely your species is not strong enough to matter to Zithera." Adrian tilted his head slightly, a small smile forming on his lips. "Strength is not always what you see, Your Majesty. Sometimes it is in the mind, the strategy, and the will to survive." The queen raised an eyebrow. She had expected fear, confusion, maybe even defiance, but not this. There was something unusual about him. Over the next few days, Adrian was introduced to the palace and its customs. He observed the strange rituals of Zithera, where nobles displayed loyalty through complex gestures, and the council meetings, where ideas clashed like lightning. Yet he adapted with surprising ease. He learned the etiquette quickly, not by imitation, but by understanding the logic behind every action. When a noble attempted to trick him during a council discussion, Adrian answered with calm reasoning, pointing out flaws in their plan without disrespect. The nobles were shocked. They had expected a weak human, easily intimidated, but instead they found a man whose mind moved like a predator. Seralia watched silently, her curiosity growing. She decided to test him further. "Commander Kane," she said one morning during a private meeting, "what do you know of our history, our customs, our wars?" "I have studied what I could," Adrian replied honestly. "Not everything, but enough to understand your strengths and weaknesses." "And what do you think of our power?" she asked, tilting her head. He paused, choosing his words carefully. "Power is not always physical. Even the strongest can fall if they are careless. I do not doubt your people's strength, but intelligence and strategy are also forms of power, ones that can change the outcome of battles." Seralia's lips curved slightly. His answer was respectful, yet it held a quiet challenge. She liked that. The palace soon became a place of whispered gossip. "The queen is mad," muttered a noble. "Why would she even speak to a human as an equal?" But Seralia paid no mind. She had made up her mind. During a grand ceremony in the palace's central hall, she shocked everyone. With all the nobles gathered and the city watching from afar, she approached Adrian. "Commander Kane," she announced, her voice ringing through the hall, "I hereby offer you my hand in marriage." Gasps filled the hall. Some nobles nearly fainted. The idea of a human marrying the alien queen was unthinkable. Adrian's calm demeanor did not falter. He bowed slightly. "Your Majesty, it would be my honor." The Queen smiled, a small but genuine expression. This was not about politics, she realized. This was about curiosity. She wanted to know what made this human so different from every other species she had encountered. The weeks that followed were strange, yet fascinating. Adrian moved into the royal quarters and began learning the ways of the palace more deeply. He trained with the Queen in strategy, military planning, and diplomacy. While his physical strength seemed ordinary, his mental agility and tactical thinking impressed Seralia. One day, during a mock battle exercise, the Queen arranged a scenario where Adrian would have to defend a position against multiple alien soldiers. The nobles watched, certain the human would fail. But Adrian moved with precision. He analyzed the battlefield, predicted the enemy's moves, and coordinated the defenders. By the end of the exercise, the humans had won effortlessly, and the nobles were left speechless. Seralia's eyes sparkled with interest. She realized that this human, whom everyone underestimated, had abilities far beyond what they could see. Despite his calm exterior, Adrian noticed the subtle hostility from some nobles. They tried to trap him with questions, challenge him with traditions, and test his loyalty. Every time he met their challenges with patience and wit, never arrogance, but always showing a hint of his capability. One evening, as he walked with Seralia through the palace gardens, glowing under the twin moons, she asked quietly, "Why do you endure this? You could leave at any time. Why stay?" Adrian looked at the stars reflected in the crystalline fountains. "Because I see something here worth protecting. And because I want to prove that humans are more than what you expect." Seralia considered his words. She had expected him to fear, to bow, or to resist. Instead, he held a quiet strength, one that did not shout but could not be ignored. The first part of their unusual marriage was a test, not of love, but of capability, patience, and trust. Seralia watched Adrian closely, learning from him as he adapted to her world. She realized that this human, fragile by alien standards, might be far stronger than anyone guessed. Meanwhile, the nobles of Zithera began to whisper. Some were curious, some were jealous, and some feared what this human might represent. One thing was certain: the galaxy had never seen a human like Adrian Kane before, and Zithera would soon learn that strength could come in unexpected forms. The palace of Zithera was more than a home. It was a world unto itself. Crystal corridors twisted like rivers of light, and statues of past rulers watched silently from every corner. Adrian Kane had grown accustomed to the palace's grandeur, but the subtle dangers of life at the alien court were far more difficult to navigate. Every morning, he awoke to the hum of alien activity. Courtiers whispered in alien tongues, guards patrolled the halls with glowing weapons, and servants moved, like shadows delivering news, food, or warnings. Adrian had learned quickly to observe without drawing attention, to read intentions in gestures and glances, and to anticipate challenges before they arrived. Queen Seralia watched him constantly. She was not just a ruler, she was a master of perception, and she saw the sharpness behind Adrian's calm exterior. He adapted faster than any human she had heard of, and his mind worked in ways that even the most cunning alien advisors struggled to predict. One morning, during a council meeting, a group of nobles gathered to discuss the defense of Zithera's borders. They argued heatedly, their voices sharp and shrill, their gestures almost like claws in the air. "Your Majesty," said one, "the human cannot possibly understand our military systems. His strategies are flawed. He will bring shame if allowed." To advise the council, Adrian raised his hand politely. "With your permission, Your Majesty," he said, "may I offer a perspective?" The Queen inclined her head. "Proceed, Commander Kane." He studied the maps projected in the center of the room, showing borders, defense stations, and fleet positions. "Our borders are defended by predictable patrols," he began. "A clever enemy could exploit blind spots near the northern mountains. I suggest rotating patrols randomly and reinforcing weak points with mobile units." The room fell silent. It was a simple idea, but no Zitharan had thought to approach it this way. The nobles exchanged uneasy glances, realizing the human had anticipated scenarios they had ignored for decades. Seralia's eyes shone with quiet amusement. "Your strategy is unusual," she said. "Yet it makes sense. We will test it." Over. The next few days, Adrian moved through the palace like a shadow, observing and learning. He met with military leaders, scholars, and engineers, quietly asking questions and gathering knowledge. He learned their strengths and weaknesses, not to dominate them, but to understand the system fully. Some nobles tried to trick him. They asked riddles in their complex language, hoping he would fail and embarrass himself. Others tried to tempt him with bribes or threaten him with dangers from within the palace. Adrian faced every challenge calmly, never angry, never reckless. Instead, he answered with logic and humility, showing an intelligence that few could match. Even the palace guards, initially suspicious, began to respect him. He did not flaunt his abilities, but when needed, he demonstrated skills that were unusual for humans. Rapid reflexes, precise timing, and an uncanny understanding of mechanics and strategy. Seralia found these displays both fascinating and unsettling. One evening, as the palace glowed under the twin moons, she invited Adrian to the gardens for a private walk. Water flowed through crystal channels reflecting the stars, and alien flowers released glowing pollen into the air. "You adapt quickly," she said, breaking the silence. "Most humans would be terrified here. Most would fail within a week." Adrian shrugged. "Fear is not always useful. I prefer observation. Panic does not solve problems. It creates them." The queen smiled faintly. "And yet you remain calm even when nobles try to undermine you. Why?" "Because I see the world as it is," he said simply. "Not as it should be. If I respond to every insult or trick, I lose sight of the goal." She studied him carefully. His words were simple, but they carried weight. He was unlike any being she had ever encountered. Small, fragile by her standards, yet brimming with inner strength. Life at court was not only about politics. Adrian had to learn the rituals, the customs, and the subtle games of social interaction. Dining was an ordeal. Every movement, every gesture had meaning. One wrong bow, one mispronounced word could bring shame. Yet he performed each act with careful observation, often surprising the nobles with his understanding of their traditions after only a few days. During a grand banquet, he sat among the most powerful aliens of Zithara. They watched him, expecting awkward mistakes. Instead, he engaged them in conversation, asking questions about history, culture, and philosophy. He listened more than he spoke, but when he did speak, his words carried logic, insight, and an unusual wit. By the end of the banquet, some nobles were impressed, some were suspicious, and some were quietly angry. A human should not command attention in such a way. Yet here he was, doing exactly that. Then came the first real test. A minor faction within the palace, jealous of Adrian's growing influence, tried to trap him. They staged a dispute in a council meeting, manipulating facts and provoking the nobles. The plan was to make Adrian appear incompetent, to embarrass the queen for marrying him. Adrian studied the situation quietly. He noted every word, every hesitation, every hidden agenda. When the time came, he spoke, calmly unraveling the lies, exposing inconsistencies, and presenting solutions that even the queen had not considered. The nobles were stunned. Some tried to argue, but their attempts fell apart under Adrian's reasoning. Seralia's eyes glimmered with approval. She had not expected him to handle the situation so elegantly. After the meeting, Seralia called him to her private chambers. "You have impressed me," she said. "More than I thought possible." Adrian bowed slightly. "I only do what is necessary to survive, and to help those who can use my knowledge wisely." "You are not like other humans," she said softly. "Most are limited, fragile, easily frightened. Yet you adapt, observe, and act with confidence. It unnerves some of the nobles, does it not? He smiled faintly. It does. But that is their problem, not mine. I do not seek to dominate, only to be understood and to serve. Days turned into weeks, and Adrian's presence began to shift the court subtly. The palace guards began to train, differently, inspired by his strategies. Scholars debated new ideas, some influenced by his logic and insight. Even nobles who had once scorned him now watched carefully, wary but respectful. Saralia noticed the change. The human she had married, one whom the galaxy had underestimated, was slowly reshaping the palace without even trying. His influence was quiet, deliberate, and effective. One evening she observed him practicing alone in the training grounds. The courtyard was filled with alien machinery, holographic simulations, and intricate weapons. Adrian moved with precision, his body relaxed but ready, his mind calculating every move. It was not strength that impressed her. It was control, awareness, and intelligence. Most humans would not survive a single day here, she thought. Yet he thrives. There is more to him than anyone sees, perhaps much more. As the twin moons rose over Zithera, Adrian walked beside Saralia in the palace gardens once more. Do the nobles understand you yet? He asked lightly, a hint of amusement in his tone. She laughed softly. Some do, some do not. But it does not matter. Those who underestimate you are the ones who will eventually learn the hardest lessons. He looked at her, eyes calm. And what lesson will they learn? That humans are not weak, that strength comes in many forms, and that even the smallest being can change the course of history. Adrian smiled faintly. Then I hope they are. Ready? The palace was alive with whispers, intrigue, and curiosity. Life at the alien court was dangerous, unpredictable, and complex. Yet Adrian Kane navigated it with skill, intelligence, and a quiet confidence that none had expected. And as Saralia watched him move through her palace, she realized something that made her pulse quicken. Not fear, not desire, but admiration. She had married a human, a being from a small, underestimated planet. Yet in this human, she saw potential that could rival even the greatest Zitheran leaders. The court had only just begun to understand him. But already, Adrian Kane's presence had begun to change the palace, the queen, and perhaps the entire planet of Zithera. The palace of Zithera seemed peaceful in the early morning light. Crystal towers shimmered like glass under the twin suns, and the air carried the scent of alien flowers that glowed faintly even in daylight. Yet beneath the calm, danger was brewing. Rogue faction of alien nobles, jealous and fearful of Adrian Kane's growing influence, had been planning an attack on the palace. They believed that if they could capture or eliminate the human, they could embarrass Queen Saralia and reclaim their lost power. Their numbers were small, but they were skilled warriors, and their weapons were unlike anything humans had ever seen. Adrian had sensed tension rising. Even though no one openly spoke of the threat, he noticed the subtle signs: patrols moving differently, guards whispering in urgent tones, and nobles casting suspicious glances. He studied the palace layout carefully, memorizing corridors, escape routes, and vantage points. The first sign of the attack came during a ceremonial event. The palace was filled with guests from across the planet, diplomats, traders, and nobles alike. Saralia walked at the front, her regal presence commanding attention. Adrian followed closely, his eyes scanning for danger. Suddenly, a loud explosion rocked the central hall. Crystal panels shattered, sending shards of light everywhere. Panic erupted as armed figures stormed in from hidden entrances. They were the rogue faction, striking with precision and violence. "Protect the queen!" Adrian shouted, immediately taking command. His voice was calm but commanding, cutting through the chaos. The palace guards hesitated. They had never seen a human act with such authority in the heat of battle. Yet they quickly followed his orders, forming defensive lines, guiding civilians to safety, and engaging the attackers. Adrian moved through the hall like a shadow, his reflexes precise, his movements swift. He did not simply fight, he anticipated. He read the attackers' body language, predicted their moves, and coordinated the defenders with perfect timing. Using both human ingenuity and careful observation of Zitharan combat tactics, he turned what could have been a massacre into a controlled engagement. One attacker lunged at him with a blade that glowed with alien energy. Adrian sidestepped effortlessly, using the environment to his advantage. Crystal pillars became shields, walls became barriers, and holographic projectors created illusions that confused the attackers. Within moments, the human had neutralized the first wave without serious injury to the palace or its people. Queen Seralia watched from the central dais, her eyes wide with astonishment. She had known humans were clever, but she had never imagined such skill and tactical brilliance. Every move Adrian made was calculated, efficient, and deadly when necessary, but he always prioritized safety for the innocent. "Who is this man?" she whispered to herself, awe in her voice. "How can one human be so capable?" The rogue faction regrouped, realizing their initial assault had failed. They attempted a flanking maneuver, moving toward the queen with deadly intent. Adrian anticipated their plan before they even reached her. He shouted commands to the guards, creating a trap that funneled the attackers into a narrow corridor. Using a combination of agility and strategic thinking, he disabled them one by one. Even the most seasoned Zitharan warriors were stunned. A human, whom they had considered weak and insignificant, was not only surviving, but outsmarting and overpowering elite fighters. After the attackers were neutralized, Adrian quickly moved to secure the palace. He ensured that every corridor was checked, every exit monitored, and every vulnerable point reinforced. The rogue faction had underestimated him, and now they were captured or fleeing into the city. The queen approached him as he completed the final sweep. "Adrian," she said, her voice a mixture of relief and astonishment, "you saved this palace, and perhaps my life. How did you do it?" Adrian shook his head modestly. "I only did what was necessary. Planning, observation, and quick action are more useful than raw strength, and knowing your palace as I do helps." Seralia studied him carefully. She could feel a shift in her understanding of humans. They were not merely fragile creatures, but adaptable, intelligent, and resilient. One human had just demonstrated abilities that many Zitharans, trained their entire lives, could not match. Word of the attack and Adrian's actions spread quickly throughout Zithara. Couriers delivered news to distant cities, and traders whispered in markets. Everywhere the story was the same. A human had defended the palace, protected the queen, and outsmarted elite warriors. Nobles who had once scoffed at him now looked at him with caution, respect, and a hint of fear. Some plotted in silence, unsure if they could challenge him again. Others quietly began to reconsider their assumptions about humanity. Even Seralia's advisors, who had been skeptical from the start, admitted to themselves that the human's abilities were extraordinary. "Perhaps we underestimated him," Krith muttered, the three-eyed advisor watching Adrian from a distance. The aftermath of the attack brought both tension and revelation. Adrian worked tirelessly to ensure the palace and its inhabitants were safe. He organized patrols, reinforced weak points, and coordinated with city defenses. But he also began to share his strategies with the queen and her trusted advisors, teaching them methods that combined human tactics with Zitharan technology. For Seralia, every lesson was eye-opening. Humans were capable of rapid adaptation, creative problem-solving, and strategic thinking that surpassed her most experienced generals. She began to rely on Adrian not only as a husband, but as a key partner in ruling her planet. One evening, as they stood together on a balcony overlooking the city, Seralia spoke softly. "You are unlike any being I have ever known. The galaxy has underestimated humans for far too long." Adrian smiled faintly. "Perhaps it is time they learned otherwise." Over the next weeks, the palace gradually returned to normal. Life resumed its rhythm, but the court had changed. Adrian's reputation was solidified. Nobles who had tried to undermine him were wary, and some had even begun seeking his advice. The Queen's marriage to a human was no longer a scandal. It had become a statement. Adrian continued his training and study of the palace, but now he also prepared for future threats. He knew the rogue faction might return, perhaps stronger or with allies from other planets. He worked quietly, teaching the palace guards, refining strategies and improving defenses. Even Saralia noticed subtle changes in him. He was not only physically capable but mentally sharp in ways that no alien could match. He remained calm under pressure, never panicking, and always thinking several steps ahead. She realized that his true strength lay not in muscle or weapons, but in his mind and his adaptability. One night, as they walked through the moonlit gardens, Saralia asked a question that had been on her mind. "Adrian, why did you not reveal your abilities sooner? You could have impressed everyone at once, yet you waited." He looked at her thoughtfully. "I wanted them to see the truth gradually. To underestimate me is natural, but to understand my abilities after seeing them applied, it is far more convincing." The Queen nodded. She understood then that his actions were deliberate, calculated, and designed to teach, not to boast. "You are remarkable," she whispered. "And you are wise to recognize it," he replied. "Together we can change much, if we are ready." The palace had survived, the rogue faction defeated, and the Queen had gained a partner whose strength was unlike any other. Adrian Kane, the human, had proven that what others considered weakness could be turned into unparalleled power. His hidden might was not brute force, but intelligence, strategy, and the courage to act decisively. For the first time, the people of Zythera and perhaps the galaxy began to see humans not as weak, fragile beings, but as capable, adaptable, and formidable. One human had done what many aliens had believed impossible. As the twin moons shone over the palace, Saralia looked at her husband with newfound respect and admiration. She had married a human expecting curiosity and companionship. Instead, she had found an ally, a protector, and a force that could change the course of her world. The city of Zythera had settled into an uneasy calm after the attack, but the echoes of Adrian Kane's actions resonated far beyond the palace walls. Across the galaxy, news of a human defending the alien queen and outsmarting elite warriors spread like wildfire. Some dismissed it as exaggeration, but others, particularly the ambitious and cunning, realized that humans could no longer be underestimated. Within the palace, Queen Saralia paced her private chambers, her mind heavy with new responsibilities. The rogue faction had been defeated, but their attempt had revealed weaknesses in the planet's defenses. Adrian had addressed most of them, but she knew that other alien factions would see this as an opportunity. Adrian entered quietly, his presence calm yet commanding. "Your Majesty," he said, "we should prepare for responses from neighboring alliances. Some will be curious, some cautious, and some hostile." Saralia nodded. "I know, and I trust you to guide us through it." Adrian began coordinating meetings with diplomats from nearby systems. Some came with gifts, others with veiled threats. The human's presence on Zythera, through him, was a statement that could no longer be ignored. Alien leaders found themselves having to treat humans seriously, which was new, uncomfortable, and sometimes frightening. During one such meeting, a prominent diplomat from the planet Ryler arrived, his 6 eyes narrowing at Adrian. "So this is the human," he said, voice dripping with skepticism. "The one who defended the Queen's palace. Is it true that one human faced our elite warriors and survived?" Adrian inclined his head respectfully. "I only did what was necessary to protect the Queen and her people. Strength comes in many forms, not only in the physical but in intelligence, strategy, and determination." The diplomat's expression shifted. He had expected arrogance or weakness, but Adrian's calm confidence was unsettling. For the first time, he considered that humans might be more capable than he had imagined. As weeks passed, the political tremors intensified. Some alien factions attempted to undermine Queen Seralia, claiming that her marriage to a human made her weak. They circulated rumors, challenged her decisions, and plotted rebellions in secret. Adrian, however, was always one step ahead. He implemented systems of intelligence gathering, subtle diplomacy, and calculated demonstrations of human ingenuity. He advised on trade deals that favored Zithera, redesigned patrol strategies for border security, and introduced new tactics in military exercises that left even seasoned generals impressed. Seralia observed his work closely. She realized that Adrian's brilliance was not about dominating others or flaunting power. It was about careful, deliberate action that shifted perception, strengthened alliances, and neutralized threats before they could act. One morning, a message arrived from the Interstellar Council, a governing body representing multiple planets. The council had heard rumors of a human capable of defeating elite alien warriors and protecting a queen. They requested an audience, curious to see this human for themselves. "This is serious," Krith, the queen's three-eyed advisor, whispered. "The council rarely intervenes unless there is significant change. A human must truly be extraordinary for them to take notice." Adrian merely nodded. "Then we will show them what humans are capable of. But carefully, we do not need unnecessary conflict." The council's representatives arrived a week later, bringing their own security and ceremonial protocols. They were cautious, polite, but unmistakably wary. Adrian greeted them with calm courtesy, listening attentively, answering questions with intelligence and tact, and subtly demonstrating human problem-solving skills. By the end of the meeting, the council members were intrigued, impressed, and slightly unsettled. Humans had always been considered minor players in galactic politics, but Adrian had proven otherwise in a single demonstration. Meanwhile, within the palace, tensions among the Zitheran nobles reached a tipping point. Some factions, still angry about Adrian's growing influence, attempted to stage minor disruptions, hoping to discredit him or the queen. They sabotaged supplies, created false reports of enemy movements, and spread rumors among the city's inhabitants. Adrian, as always, anticipated the moves. He calmly traced each disruption back to its source, neutralized the saboteurs, and ensured that the palace and city remained stable. The nobles' plans unraveled before they could reach fruition. The queen observed in silence, increasingly aware that marrying Adrian was not a gamble, it was a strategic masterstroke. She realized that his value extended far beyond personal protection. His insight, judgment, and ability to act decisively had begun to shape Zithera's future in ways that no alien leader could ignore. Beyond the palace, news of Adrian's actions continued to ripple through the galaxy. Traders, diplomats, and spies carried reports to distant planets. Human ingenuity, bravery, and adaptability became subjects of fascination and fear. Some alien civilizations began quietly reassessing their strategies toward Earth and its people, realizing that the human species could no longer be dismissed as weak. Meanwhile, Queen Seralia and Adrian continued their private studies and training sessions. He demonstrated new tactical methods, explained human technology, and shared insights into the resilience of his species. Seralia, who had once relied solely on alien knowledge, found herself learning from him, her mind opening to possibilities she had never considered. During one late-night session in the palace's strategy room, Seralia asked, "Adrian, how do you remain so calm in the face of so many threats?" He smiled faintly. "Preparation, observation, and understanding. Fear comes from the unknown. When you know what is possible and what is likely, fear loses its power. Humans survive because we adapt, think ahead, and act decisively when necessary." The queen nodded thoughtfully. "And you have taught me that in ways I never expected." The ripple effects of Adrian's presence were also felt in trade and diplomacy. He suggested methods to improve commerce that benefited Zithera without alienating neighbors. He negotiated subtle treaties, balanced alliances, and even diffused minor conflicts before they escalated. Slowly, the palace and the planet became stronger, more unified, and respected. Yet not all reactions were positive. Some alien factions, unwilling to accept a human as an equal partner to their queen, began plotting more seriously. They sent envoys to rival planets, spreading rumors and quietly forming coalitions against Scythera. Adrian anticipated these moves too. Using both intelligence and diplomacy, he countered their efforts, turning potential threats into opportunities for alliances. He demonstrated that a human's mind could influence politics as effectively as alien strength or tradition. One night, under the glow of Scythera's twin moons, Adrian and Seralia walked through the palace gardens. The air was cool, the alien flowers glowed softly, and a quiet breeze carried the scent of crystal pollen. "Adrian," Seralia began, her voice thoughtful, "your presence has changed more than just the palace. It has changed the way the galaxy sees humans." He glanced at her, calm and composed. "Perhaps, Your Majesty, but there is still much to be done. The galaxy is vast and humans are still underestimated. We must continue to show what we are capable of, carefully, strategically, and decisively." She smiled faintly, a mixture of admiration and relief. "I had thought this marriage would be a curiosity, perhaps a mistake. Instead, it may be our greatest strength." Adrian looked at her with quiet determination. "Together, we can shape the future of Scythera, and perhaps the galaxy itself." The palace remained a beacon of stability and power, but beyond its walls the galaxy was beginning to tremble. Alien leaders who had once dismissed humans now wondered if their entire understanding of the species was flawed. Back in the palace, Adrian continued to refine strategies, train defenders, and educate allies. He remained calm, patient, and observant, always ready for the next challenge. Seralia watched him, realizing that the human she had married was not just her partner. He was a force capable of shaping political landscapes, neutralizing threats and changing the way entire civilizations perceived humanity. The galaxy had begun to take notice, and those who underestimated humans were already paying the price in subtle, yet significant ways. Adrian Kane had proven that one human, clever and capable, could influence the fate of a planet and the perception of an entire species. The city of Scythera sparkled under the light of its twin suns, yet the peace was fragile. Beyond the crystalline walls, alien factions whispered in distant star systems, plotting, questioning, and observing. Adrian Kane, the human who had shaken the galaxy's perception of his species, knew that the true challenges were only beginning. Queen Seralia moved through her palace with a calm authority. She had grown to trust Adrian completely, not only as her husband but as a partner in governance, strategy, and diplomacy. His insight had already changed the palace, the city, and the way nearby planets regarded Scythera. But now, the galaxy would demand proof beyond a single planet's borders. Adrian stood on the palace balcony, studying holographic star maps projected from the crystal below. Alien fleets, trade routes, and planetary defenses filled the display. The rogue factions that had tried to overthrow the palace were not gone. They were regrouping, forming alliances, and waiting for weakness. "This is more than a border skirmish," he said, turning to Seralia. "They are testing us, gauging our strength. If we fail to act decisively, Scythera could face coordinated attacks from multiple systems." Seralia nodded. "And what is your plan?" Adrian smiled faintly. "We will show them that humans are not weak, that we can defend, negotiate, and lead. But we will do it in a way they will remember." The first test came quickly. A fleet from the planet Ryler, one of the larger systems in the sector, approached Scythera under the guise of trade negotiations. Adrian studied their fleet and strategy, recognizing subtle weaknesses in their formation. During a council meeting, he presented a plan to Queen Seralia and her advisors. "We will allow them to approach our orbital space, but we will control every encounter," he said. "We will demonstrate our strength without initiating unnecessary conflict. If they understand our capability, they will reconsider aggression. If they misjudge us, they will learn the consequences." The council was tense. Some nobles were worried that letting a potentially hostile fleet approach was reckless. Yet they trusted Adrian. His predictions had proven accurate before, and his calm demeanor instilled confidence. As the fleet entered Zitharan space, Adrian coordinated the defense with precision. Advanced Zitharan sensors, human tactical calculations, and efficient communication created a near-perfect strategy. The fleet encountered minor obstacles that slowed them and demonstrated Zithara's readiness, but Adrian ensured no lives were lost. The Ryler delegates were impressed and a little frightened. The humans' approach had not only protected Zithara but also showcased human ingenuity and strategy in a way that words alone could not. Queen Seralia observed quietly, her heart swelling with pride. She had married a human expecting curiosity and courage. Instead, she had found a partner capable of altering the course of entire star systems. As the days passed, alien ambassadors and envoys arrived, curious to see this human in action. Adrian engaged with them directly, speaking in calm, intelligent tones. He discussed strategy, trade, and security, demonstrating that humans could think several moves ahead of even the most experienced alien leaders. One ambassador from the planet Velyar leaned forward intrigued. "Your methods, they are unlike anything I have seen. You think in ways we cannot anticipate. How can a single human be so capable?" Adrian smiled politely. "Humans survive by adapting, learning quickly, and acting decisively. We are underestimated, often, but that does not limit our potential." The ambassador's expression shifted from curiosity to respect. Across the galaxy, whispers spread that humans were no longer insignificant. Back in the palace, life continued to evolve. The wreck, factions now aware of Adrian's growing influence, attempted to coordinate attacks across multiple planets. They believed their combined strength could challenge Zithara. Adrian anticipated their moves, deploying defensive systems, subtle countermeasures, and intelligence networks that ensured the rogue faction's plans failed before they could escalate. Queen Seralia, who had once relied solely on her alien advisors, now depended on Adrian as her primary strategist. Together, they worked to strengthen alliances, negotiate treaties, and unify systems under careful but firm guidance. During one training session, Seralia asked him quietly, "Do you ever tire of all this? The politics, the strategy, the constant threats?" Adrian shook his head. "No, it is a challenge, yes. But challenges are what we grow from. Humans do not give up easily. We face obstacles and adapt. That is what makes us strong." Seralia smiled faintly, realizing that his calm determination was not arrogance but a fundamental trait of his species. The turning point came when an interstellar council summoned both Seralia and Adrian to mediate a dispute between rival planets. Representatives from dozens of systems arrived, some hostile, others skeptical, and all wary of human involvement. Adrian approached the council with quiet confidence. He listened carefully to each argument, analyzed the political and strategic implications, and then presented solutions that were fair, logical, and impossible to dismiss. His calm reasoning, combined with subtle demonstrations of strategy and intelligence, won over even the most hostile delegates. By the end of the council, a historic treaty was signed, with humans recognized as valuable negotiators and allies. The galaxy began to understand that humans were not weak, fragile, or insignificant. They were capable, resilient, and strategically brilliant. Back on Zithara, the palace had become a symbol of stability and power. Adrian's methods, combined with Seralia's authority, created a new era of respect and influence. The rogue factions had been neutralized. The neighboring planets now regarded humans seriously, and Zithara's position in the galaxy had strengthened considerably. One evening, as the twin moons rose over the city, Seralia walked through the palace gardens with Adrian. The glowing alien flowers illuminated their path, and the crystal fountains reflected the light in dazzling patterns. "You have changed everything," she said softly. "Zithara, the galaxy, even the way humans are seen. I never imagined that one human could do so much." Adrian looked at her calmly. "I only did what was necessary. Humans survive by adapting, learning, and acting when it matters most. That is our strength. She nodded, understanding fully now. And I have learned that strength is not always visible. It can be quiet, intelligent, and decisive. And you, Adrian Kane, have shown it to the galaxy. In the following months, Adrian and Ceralia worked together to strengthen Zithara's alliances, improve defenses, and maintain peace. Humans began to gain respect, curiosity, and recognition in interstellar politics. Even distant civilizations that had dismissed Earth and its people started to reconsider. The Queen observed him often, realizing that their partnership was far more than personal. It was transformative. The human she had married had become a symbol of capability, intelligence, and resilience. During a late-night session in the palace strategy room, Ceralia asked, "Adrian, do you think humans will ever be fully accepted in the galaxy?" He smiled, faintly. "Perhaps not fully, but perception changes with each action. We will continue to show what we can do. Humans survive, adapt, and thrive. That is what matters." The Queen nodded. She understood now that marrying Adrian was not only a personal choice, it was the beginning of a new era for her planet and her species. The rogue factions, having seen the consequences of underestimating humans, ceased their attempts at rebellion. Alien leaders across the galaxy adjusted their strategies and alliances, treating humans with caution, respect, and curiosity. Adrian's quiet brilliance had reshaped perceptions, established new alliances, and proven that humans were far more capable than anyone had imagined. Zithara's twin moons shone over the Crystal City, a symbol of stability, strength, and a partnership that had changed the course of history. Adrian and Ceralia stood together, looking toward the stars. They had faced danger, political intrigue, and prejudice, and together they had prevailed. Adrian had revealed the true potential of humanity, not through brute force, but through intelligence, adaptability, and courage. The Queen had learned that even the smallest underestimated beings could wield power that shifted the galaxy. As the stars glimmered overhead, both humans and aliens would remember this era. Humans had emerged as equals, partners, and forces to be reckoned with. And for Queen Ceralia and Commander Adrian Kane, the marriage that had shocked the galaxy had become a partnership that could change it forever. The galaxy had witnessed the rise of human potential, and those who once doubted now knew the truth. Intelligence, courage, and determination could outmatch brute strength, and one human could indeed reshape the future of civilizations. Together, they were unstoppable.